Welcome to our weekly talk show, Informally Formal. Our today's topic is foreign direct investment. And we have with us today a veteran of the business community in Bangladesh, former president of Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the chair of BUILD, Abul Kasem Khan. Indeed, a pleasure to have you back, Abul Kasem Khan, to talk about a very timely and important topic, foreign direct investment, FDI, into Bangladesh. And as you have seen in recent news, a lot of Chinese companies are very interested in investing in Bangladesh. So my first question to you would be, what should we do to attract foreign direct investment into Bangladesh? Over to you, Abul Kasem.
Yes, very important question, Akbar. Thank you. As you know, there is a global rethinking on investment worldwide due to the COVID situation. Companies are thinking of a second or third alternate investment destination in addition to China. Bangladesh is very much in the list with countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, India, and Cambodia. We have seen other countries become very aggressive to get these investments into their country. For China plus one, so far we have not seen expected results for Bangladesh compared to other countries in the region like Indonesia, Vietnam. They are leading this relocation race. I think you have read the papers. Recently there was a report that 87 Japanese companies left China, out of which 57 went back to Japan, 15 went to Vietnam, 6 to 7 went to Thailand and Malaysia. In 2018 also, Vietnam received the highest relocation investments from China, about 26 out of 79. So Vietnam is getting a lot of investments. As you know, the Americans are also rethinking their supply chain due to the existing US-China trade relationship. Either they are pushing supply companies to relocate to other Southeast countries or opting out of China altogether. Now, how is Bangladesh positioned in all this? In the context of US and others moving out or managing their supply side, Bangladesh is unfortunately not getting much attention. We really need to devise more attractive options for them, and the government is, I know, already working on some specific strategies. We need to have an aggressive and coordinated strategy to attract FDI, including the relocation from China. As you know, a new dimension has opened up with the Chinese duty-free access to Bangladesh. About 8,256 products have been given duty-free access to the Chinese market. This indeed will make Bangladesh a very attractive destination for investment by other countries. This is a new window of opportunity for Bangladesh, which remains open, but we need to take the right steps in order to maximize the benefits. So far, I have read the reports. Many Chinese companies have already shown interest in investing in Bangladesh. So far, there has been a commitment of nearly $300 million and also a possibility of another 280 million, reaching about $1 billion of investment from Chinese companies. And all this is happening because of the opening up of the Chinese market, duty-free access to the Chinese market. As you know, in 2019, Bangladesh received about $2.8 billion, out of which 630 million was from China, making it the highest investor in Bangladesh. And for Bangladesh, we cannot go after all the sectors, but sector-specific approach where we have competitive advantage and access to Chinese market. Those areas need to be explored. If we can get the right investment planning done with the right strategies, this is a game changer for Bangladesh, no doubt.
Okay, Abul Kasem, you covered quite a bit there. Let me ask you though. You mentioned about last year, but the year before we were at 3.5 billion or 3.6 billion, I believe. So, however, as you mentioned, we are seeing quite a bit of interest this year. As you know, in any growth trajectory, foreign direct investment is a very important component. all countries basically compete for that pie, the foreign direct investment pie. And in this COVID situation, as countries are becoming more unilateral, so to speak, and so the overall pie has shrunk quite a bit. But in our region, because of various geopolitical reasons as well as economic reasons, as you mentioned, we are seeing some movement out of China for businesses. Nevertheless, you did mention, I was going to ask you, you did mention as to how competing countries in this region, how are they faring compared to Bangladesh? You touched upon that, but I would like for you to give us a little better picture in terms of how well do you think Vietnam is doing compared to Bangladesh or Indonesia for that matter?
Well, coming back to Bangladesh first, Bangladesh has not done well in attracting FDI compared to other countries in the region. I'll come to Vietnam, but let me just talk about Bangladesh. Bangladesh has not done well in terms of its potentials. We feel Bangladesh is a potential destination for investments, but unfortunately we have not done well. We have performed well below our expected levels, no doubt. Bangladesh received 2.8 billion, as I mentioned, and you mentioned the previous year Bangladesh reached more than 3 billion because of the Akij investment by the Japanese. Now, if you compare with Vietnam, Vietnam received $15 billion in 2018. And I don't know the 2019 figures, but it's a huge figure. But if you go beyond Vietnam and talk about other countries, if you talk about Indonesia, Indonesia also received close to 18-19 billion in 2019. Thailand is receiving about 5 to 6 billion. Myanmar has received about 3.3 billion. So the regionally, it's quite competitive, and a lot of investments are going away to these countries, and Bangladesh has not done well compared to these countries. Now, coming back to Vietnam, Vietnam has certain advantage. They are part of the ASEAN grouping. They have a couple of foreign trade agreements with other countries. So these advantages we don't have. And ease of doing business, if you look at the ease of doing business, where Bangladesh is ranked quite poorly compared to Vietnam. So these information or data or ranking do matter to the investors. And there is what we have seen, that there is a direct correlation with the ease of doing business ranking with your FDI investments. So I would end here about Vietnam, that they are attracting more investments because they have certain good policies in place.
Right. Abul Kasem, yes, you're absolutely right. One of the things that oftentimes people don't realize is they think foreign direct investment are monies that are directed towards growing or developing economies. But that is not true at all. One of the largest recipients of foreign direct investment happens to be America, Great Britain, China, right? So it's not just developing countries that receive foreign direct investment. So wherever the investment sees the best return is where it goes. So as you mentioned, in Bangladesh, we have some work to do. There is a reason why we haven't been able to attract foreign direct investment to the extent that we would like to see. And primarily the reason is when businesses want to relocate, Abul Kasem, what are they looking at? I mean, you're a business person. You know, businesses, when they want to start up an operation, they're looking to make sure that they have a good return on their investment, but also at the same time, they do not want to face unnecessary hassles or hurdles in their investment process. So Bangladesh has a lot to do, I believe, in terms of easing the process. So what would you say as far as the initiative of Bangladesh government, which I think is a great initiative in terms of special economic zones As you know, the government has announced 100 special economic zones
Yep.
with special facilities and stuff. So what role do you think SEZs will play in attracting foreign direct investment?
Well, we need to create the best investment climate, no doubt, and become one of the most attractive destination for the investors map, no doubt. We have the economic foundation, we have the intentions. Now we need to create the business climate, and one of the most important factors, or I would say one of the most important elements is being competitive. I'll come to the SEZs later on. Just to add what we need to do. We need to first fast track the special economic zones, and also the other infrastructures we have. We are quite outdated in terms of our infrastructure. I'm talking about roads, ports. Our connectivity is quite weak compared to the regional players. We need to create a free trade zone for our raw material supply, become a supply side manufacturer. One of the reasons that Vietnam is attracting, because they have a good supply side manufacturing base to supply the foreign investors. We need to bring logistic efficiency, as I mentioned, with improved connectivity, good roads, ports, and warehousing, logistics. All this come into play. So also we were thinking when I was in Dhaka Chamber, we were thinking, we also mentioned to the government to declare the logistic and warehousing as a thrust sector, and also to bring maybe a ministry on this particular sector, a logistic ministry, which would bring all the stakeholders and the service providers under one roof. RMG sector was not open for many years in Bangladesh. Now the RMG sector is being encouraged for new investments. So this is a new sector opening up for Bangladesh at the backward linkage side and at the forward linkage sides. We need to develop our skills. Our skills development needs really thought through, process driven skills development. Research and training is very important for Bangladesh. Development of alternate funding is something which we are advocating. The development of the capital market, international private equity needs to play a big role. Now, one of the major concerns or one of the areas that needs attention is we need a strong look east policy, because most of the investors that invest in this region or globally are from China, Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea is there, Japan, Malaysia. So we need to really get these countries to invest in Bangladesh. I know the government, as you mentioned rightly, the SEZs, government has allocated special economic zone on the country-specific zones. So these need to be fast-tracked and brought into the process of starting off and getting investments into these SEZs. Something apart from that is the Big B initiative by the Japanese government. And then there is the Chinese initiative of the OBOR, One Belt, One Road. So these would create regional integration and connectivity to connect the region, and Bangladesh must become the gateway between Southeast Asia and South Asia.
Right.
And lastly, just to end and saying that we need drastic improvement in all our competitive indexes, starting from the ease of doing business, trading across border, logistic index, and various infrastructure indexes that we have.
Right, Abul Kasem, you've covered quite a bit, really. Some of the things that I was going to ask you, you have already covered. We need a cohesive roadmap. We need to have a cohesive roadmap, an overall roadmap, whether we need logistics ministry, but that is something very important that needs to be addressed. A couple of other things is like supply chain linkage with FDI is also critically important. Policy coordination between taxes and VAT implications when a business is in a SEZ as opposed to other businesses that are outside of the SEZ. Those kind of things needs to be looked at, because of course we want to attract foreign direct investment, but at the same time we need to be very cognizant that we cannot do so at the expense of local businesses as well.
Mm-hmm.
So local businesses.
So therefore, you build the bridge. No? You build the bridge by the supply side management with
yes, absolutely, absolutely right.
With the SMEs and micro industries.
Right. So the idea, of course, Abul Kasem, is we do want the money, but the bigger picture is bigger than money. Is, of course, we want employment generation. We want technology transfer. We want upskilling of our workers here. But Abul Kasem, you also brought in some very important points, that for us to become an attractive destination for foreign direct investment, we have to do a lot in terms of research and development. We have to really upgrade our educational system. Our educational system needs a lot of work in order for us to have a workforce that is competitive from at a world level. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, Akbar. I would like to add something else on in this area of FDI. You know, FDI plays a big role in a developing country's economic growth path, and no different for Bangladesh. If you go across the region, even the ASEAN nations, the Asian tigers, they all got a huge FDI during that. They're still getting these FDIs into their country, and they are playing a big role. What does FDI do? Obviously, it brings foreign currency into the country, technical support, skills development. By default, they bring a lot of skilled people. Employment, they are a big employment generator. And most importantly, they bring the technology. Technology transfer is something that you get ready-made by these foreign direct investment. Therefore, it adds momentum to the national economy. In the context of Bangladesh, we have seen very low FDI into the country. We need, we are getting about 1% of our GDP in terms of FDI, and this needs to be up to 3 to 4% of our GDP, which is about 10 to 12 billion dollars a year. Can you imagine the economic activity and the spillover effect if it will have into the economy? In addition, if we are able to build the backward linkage, as you mentioned, in the supply side for foreign investors' supply needs, then we are looking at another economic avenue opening up for our local industry, particularly the small and medium-sized industries, which are the backbone of any country. Absolutely. Also, as you mentioned, that the government has set a target for the SEZs also. They want to create job. Job creation is the most important part here. 40 billion exports with a targeted job creation of 10 million jobs to be created. So these, where will these investment come from? Mostly from FDI. So FDI will create a great momentum for the economy to jumpstart the entire economic activity and our prosperity, and everything is part of this process.
Abul Kasem, we're almost at the tail end. So I know you have been a great advocate of bringing together educational institutions and businesses. So educational institutions then get to do research in targeted areas that businesses need, as well as produce graduates that are in need in Bangladesh. So we will, I guess, use another day, another session to talk over that, because I know that is something very dear to you. But let's just end with this, and I would like for you to be as brief as possible. What specific policy reforms would you want to see in Bangladesh to help us attract more foreign direct investment? Abul Kasem.
Yeah, the government plays the biggest role here, from country branding to improving the investment climate to policy consistency. Everything is the government's role to play. from institutional capacity building to driving key reform processes, from economic stability to economic diplomacy. Government plays the biggest role here through its institution. And you touched upon a very important element, which is policy predictability and policy consistency. Is extremely important for not only foreign investors, for local investors to also invest. So this is very important. And that will create the stability and the attractiveness of Bangladesh. So policy needs to be also comparable to other countries. Taxation policy needs to be competitive. Exit policy when foreign investments or investors want to exit Bangladesh, that has to be also an easy process. Improving Bangladesh's marketing plan. Have you ever seen a good marketing plan for Bangladesh? I have not. We need to brand our country with the right information. We have a lot of strengths. Country-specific investment planning is needed. We need to plan which country, what kind of investments we need. A one-stop service is coming in play, which is very important. I think it's a game changer for Bangladesh. And I hope this will create a lot of momentum for new investments, and ease of doing business will improve. One thing which I want to, and I'm a big supporter, is research. We need to continuously do research and country competitiveness, and the SWOT analysis, the strength, weakness, opportunity, and these kind of analysis with other countries. And if needed, we need to appoint our local research companies, in addition, international research companies, and to really get the numbers crunching and where we are, where we want to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very briefly, but you touched on most all of the points that are very important in us for us to be FDI ready. FDI ready, because it's a competitive landscape. So if we are an attractive destination, money will automatically flow. And in order for just to very quickly recap, Abul Kasem, we need to relook. We need to relook at making us competitive from every different angle. Infrastructure,
absolutely.
Infrastructure, logistics, education. We need to have skilled manpower. We need to have adequate research. Our taxation policy needs to be competitive with other nations. So all areas needs to come together in order for us to be able to attract foreign direct investment. But last but not certainly the least, as you mentioned, we need a coherent country branding policy that has a uniform theme of why should someone come and invest in Bangladesh? A national branding policy. We are absolutely at the end, Abul Kasem. There is, I know, we could bring you in on so many topics that we could talk about. I know you're also passionate about branding Bangladesh, and we could perhaps talk about that, because the government, giving the government a lot of merit, we should, in terms of all that they have achieved, in terms of imagine power generation and self-sufficiency there in a lot of areas, women empowerment, reduction of poverty, lots of things. But our goal is not so much so to concentrate on things that the government has done well. We want our country to do even better. That's the idea. So we want to bring out points and stuff where we from the private sector can help the government, and so together we can become the shining star in South Asia, and why not in Asia? Wouldn't you agree, Abul Kasem?
Absolutely. I mean, you are mentioning the engagement of the private sector, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the private sector is part and parcel of the country and the economy. So together we with the government stakeholders, we can work to maximize or minimize the problems and maximize the benefits. So now we need to, as you mentioned, it has to be coordinated effort with all the stakeholders pushing Bangladesh as a attractive destination, and at the same time we need to improve our country competitiveness and also country branding.
No doubt, no doubt. Abul Kasem, with those words, I guess we will call it a wrap. I would like to thank you so very much for joining us today, and I would like to have you back again for several more sessions on a lot of different things that you could lend a tremendous amount of value to our audience. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today, and with an invitation to join us again next week. I leave it here. You be safe, and I'll see you next week.